With George Pickens' departure from the Pittsburgh Steelers, the search for a new wide receiver has intensified for the team. At this point, I will discuss the main alternatives I consider for trades and also the players who could be targets in the NFL free agency. These are athletes who, in my opinion, have the potential to become the next number 2 wide receiver for Pittsburgh, alongside DK Metcalf, as they prepare for another season in 2025. We received an important update early this morning about a trade, and if you haven't had the chance to catch up, be sure to keep an eye on the Steelers' moves regarding the signing or trade for a wide receiver to replace Pickens. It's crucial to stay up to date with the team's developments during this period. First, let's explore free agency options, as I believe there are fewer viable choices that could truly become a solid number 2 option for the Steelers. Opting for free agency has its advantages. First, you aren't dependent on other franchises. The process is a direct negotiation between the agent and the player. At this stage, it's possible to acquire athletes with fairly affordable contracts. Those still available are usually willing to accept lower salaries for a new opportunity, especially if they have the chance to be a legitimate number 2 again for an NFL team. Moreover, there's no need to negotiate draft picks to bring these players into your organization. Therefore, there is a benefit to signing a receiver in free agency compared to trying to acquire one via trade. I believe there are some good options on the wide receiver market. Players like Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen, who have both surpassed 30 years old and had seasons below expectations, are still players I believe possess higher potential than most think at this stage in their careers. Another name that deserves attention is Gabe Davis, who was recently waived by a team. The Steelers could acquire him for a low cost given his previous contract. But before we talk about that, let's focus on Amari Cooper. I see him as an underrated target that could interest the Steelers. He has solid experience in the AFC North and would surely accept the challenge of facing rivals twice a year. 2 years ago, he was among the top 10 wide receivers in the league. Analyzing his numbers, he had an impressive performance, accumulating over 1,200 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns, and an average of more than 80 yards per game. That season, he was considered one of the best route runners in the NFL. However, the following year, his performance dropped. He dealt with injuries and was traded mid-season, requiring him to build a new connection with a different quarterback, which simply didn't work for him last year, although he still surpassed 500 yards. Not by much, but he remains a relevant player. Dealing with various concerns related to injuries, an athlete was transferred during the season to a new football team, where he had to build a new relationship with a different quarterback. Unfortunately, things didn't unfold the best way for him last year, gaining a little over 500 yards. However, he still represents a significant threat on long plays and continues to be a mid-tier receiver specialized in creating separation. In my view, he still has the potential to become an excellent route runner, recognized for his ability to create separation. I believe he could be a solid number 2 receiver on a team. It's not expected for him to take on the primary receiver role as he did before. In this system, he would face the secondary cornerbacks while another player would stand out on the other side. Additionally, there are names like Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson, and ideally one of them should establish themselves as a strong number 3 receiver. Furthermore, the arrival of Cooper provides the size the receiver group needed as well as route running and separation skills that were lacking since the departure of an essential player. It's important to mention another free agent who deserves attention, having experience with a traditional team. I also believe he's somewhat undervalued. Just 2 years ago, while playing for a Los Angeles team, he stood out significantly with over 100 receptions and more than 200 yards, maintaining an average close to 100 yards per game, plus several touchdowns. Despite the challenges he faced last year, he still managed to produce respectable numbers, especially as the season progressed. In one particular game, he registered over 140 receiving yards and had several notable performances during that period. Therefore, I still believe he has the potential to be a talented route runner, capable of playing in various areas of the field. It's worth noting that after the reception, his ability to produce may be limited, and to be honest, the other athlete is also in a similar situation in his career right now. If I had to choose between these two players, I would probably opt for the first. However, if a team decided to bring in the second as a route running specialist who can still get open at a high level and is a consummate professional, that would be something the current player hasn't yet achieved. I believe that as a number 2 receiver, he could have a significant impact. As for another athlete, he is a highly sought after name at the moment, especially due to his accessibility and youth. Moreover, he has a solid physique and stands out as a blocker in running plays. Therefore, if the team needs someone to contribute in this area, he might be the ideal choice. He is also a reasonable option for long plays, although he doesn't have the finesse in route running and separation skills. Of the 3 players we are considering as possible targets, I still prefer the first and second over this third player at this stage of their careers. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. If the team is thinking about signing a receiver during the trade window, who would you choose? Would you opt for the first, the second, or prefer a more affordable alternative? Share your thoughts in the comment section. This will be the main discussion of the day. Soon, I will bring more information, and in the meantime, feel free to suggest which receiver you'd like to see as a target in this trade window. Now, before we dive into trade goals for the receiver position, hold on for a moment, as I will share some important information. In the meantime, feel free to comment on which receiver you'd like to see in the NFL free agency market. Before we analyze trade options for the receiver position for the Pittsburgh team, let's talk about the receiver already acquired with a long-term contract, DK Metcalf. Interestingly, he might choose to return to wearing number 14 since Pickens is no longer on the team, but I believe he will stick with number 4. If you are interested in purchasing his jersey now, there's a site where it is available. The link can be found in the comment section and description of this presentation. By clicking that link and making a purchase, part of the amount will contribute to our initiative. So if you want to help us and at the same time get a new DK Metcalf jersey, you can check the website and make your purchase today. Now, let's explore trade possibilities. There are more trade options than free agency options when it comes to players who could serve as number 2 receivers. However, many of these potential targets depend on the willingness of the respective teams to negotiate during this NFL offseason period. I believe the 2 players I would see as significant targets for Pittsburgh are Tyreek Hill and Brandon Ayuk. Yes, we are talking about Brandon Ayuk again. If Pittsburgh really wants to make a big move and is willing to give up an early draft pick to join DK Metcalf, these are the 2 players I consider negotiable this offseason, and the team could pursue. Recently, I spoke with a colleague who follows the Miami team, and he asked me if I would consider acquiring Tyreek Hill if the only trade required was a 3rd-round pick. I was curious about his analysis, and he responded that he thought it was a viable possibility. Since he covers our Dolphins channel daily, his opinion is highly relevant. I had a chat with him earlier, and he suggested the possibility of Tyreek Hill if the trade was only for a 3rd-round pick. I asked him if he thought that could happen, and he said yes, believing it to be a realistic alternative. He understands how things work in this organization, and considering all the issues Hill faced in the offseason, believes a 3rd-round pick would be enough. Additionally, the Pittsburgh team has 3 3rd-round picks for the year 2026. There will be a compensatory pick due to Dan Moore Jr. signing with Tennessee. Then, there is a 3rd-round pick resulting from the George Pickens trade. And of course, Pittsburgh still has its own pick. Therefore, they have 3 3rd-round picks available for trade. If all that's needed is his 3rd-round pick, which still leaves 2 for the next NFL draft, and you get a superstar-level receiver in addition to one of the best threats in depth and yards after reception in NFL history, which is Tyreek Hill, that could certainly replace George Pickens. I believe Tyreek Hill is a superior player to George Pickens. Therefore, if you want to make a big move and truly improve this position in this offseason, Hill would be the target to pursue. And if there's a chance to get him for a 3rd-round pick, as mentioned, I believe Pittsburgh should consider it. But you might be wondering, what about the fact that we just got rid of a problem with George Pickens? Why consider Tyreek Hill, who also has some off-field issues? Well, the first thing I would say is that Pickens' problems also manifested on the field, affecting his performance and causing conflicts. When Tyreek Hill is on the field, he's fully focused. This is something you can say about George. Pickens, but it's a trade of Tyreek Hill. Of course, there are off-field issues with Hill that Pittsburgh might need to consider. When an athlete enters the field, his focus is entirely on the game. This situation is different from other competitors. There are, without a doubt, concerns off the field related to some players that certain organizations might choose to avoid at this time. However, if the goal is to make a bold move this season, with a strong and ambitious roster, it is undeniable that, when in shape, a standout player ranks among the top 5 wide receivers in the league. He is the fastest receiver in the sport, with exceptional route running abilities. His ability to make plays after the catch is remarkable, as he demonstrates impressive vision and instincts as a runner, in addition to being a significant threat on deep passes. Therefore, if there's a chance to acquire him for a third-round pick, this is a move worth considering. It's worth noting that his contract is structured in a way that only 1 year remains, after which the impact on the salary cap will increase significantly. Thus, trading for this athlete involves securing a 1-year loan, and if he performs well, there will be the possibility of extending his contract and possibly keeping other standout receivers. Otherwise, there will be the option to release him after investing just a third-round pick for a player of that caliber. Personally, this would be a move to seriously consider, especially if the team is willing to take risks, as it could be an interesting opportunity. However, I have doubts about the possibility of this trade happening. If I were at the helm of another team, I would hesitate to let him go for just a third-round pick, as that doesn't fit the desired strategy. Thus, I remain skeptical about the feasibility of negotiations for this trade. However, if this idea is taken into consideration, it would be wise for the management to take a proactive approach, especially if they are genuinely committed. Negotiating for the acquisition of this athlete wouldn't exactly be my first choice. That's why I'm somewhat skeptical about other teams' willingness to trade. But if this situation materializes, it would be time to act decisively. If they truly believe they can win a title this season, they should consider looking for this player. Regarding another receiver who fits well in different systems, he is an excellent blocker and a high-quality route runner when in good form, among other skills. In theory, he would be a fantastic addition, but there is a history between this player and the organization which failed to sign him before. Additionally, he faced a serious knee injury last season, raising doubts about his ability to return to the elevated level he showed before the incident. Therefore, it will be interesting to see if his current team considers the possibility of trading him during the offseason. But if he's available, he is certainly a name to consider. Moving away from impact signings and renowned athletes, what other options are available? It's worth analyzing some players who caught the team's interest in the past. Inquiries were made about other athletes during the previous trade period, and there was some interest in all of them. Recently, one player was signed by another team, but I include him in this discussion because new additions have been made to the roster. Therefore, there's a chance this organization may be willing to release an athlete due to these new signings. I believe this is possible. As for another player, the team he is currently with just selected a new athlete. Could this make him an excess player if there is willingness to offer compensation? It's feasible for the team to consider parting ways with a specific player due to the reinforcements they've acquired during the draft. Certainly, this is a possibility. For example, a recent selection by this team might result in the exclusion of another player if an opportunity arises. Without a doubt. Additionally, I believe a player from another team is the one I'd like to see in this group. He has excellent size, stands out as a blocker in running plays, makes difficult catches, and is a competent route runner. So if the goal is to find a true number 2 wide receiver, he's definitely worth evaluating, especially considering that the team recruited several wide receivers in this draft. There are rumors that they could be open to negotiating this player in exchange for a mid-round pick. If the goal is to acquire a reliable number 2 to complement a key player, this athlete definitely becomes an option to be considered. Currently, there are some teams with an excess of wide receivers that deserve your attention. The first one is located in Green Bay, mainly because they have receivers who have already played alongside a renowned quarterback. One example is a player who had a notable rookie season and showed exciting potential the following year. despite having problems with drops. He's exceptional after the catch and would undoubtedly adapt well as a threat in that aspect. Another player who deserves attention has an interesting profile, and we'll discuss his situation more soon. Additionally, a third athlete had a solid performance in his rookie season but faced difficulties last year, ranking among the top in drop rates. It's worth noting that these three players had varying levels of problems with drops last season. Moreover, Green Bay's team recently recruited new players while still keeping an important receiver on the roster. I'd bet they're willing to trade at least one of these athletes. Among the mentioned, I believe the player with the best chances of being traded is the one who has experience at a recognized university. This athlete has excellent size. I'm inclined to think that the team is open to considering trading at least one of their players. Among the three, the most viable alternative seems to be the one who previously played at a prominent university. He has impressive size, notable agility, and is an excellent route runner. If the goal is to find a player who can consistently get open while bringing youthful energy, he's a good option. He has already played in a system that required him to have blocking skills as well as multiple functions. However, there are some concerns with this athlete, particularly his history with drops. Last season was quite unstable for him. He has the ability to make impressive catches, but his inconsistency could cause some teams to hesitate. Additionally, he faced some injuries which led him to wear protective equipment during games. Although he should be ready for the start of the season, the injury history presents a risk for any team considering a trade. Another team worth paying attention to is the one located in Indianapolis. They have some strong receivers on their roster and further strengthen that group during the draft. If I had the chance to contact this team, I'd be very interested to know if they'd be open to trading a specific player, a second-round draft pick from last year, who has a set of skills that... But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Aaron Rodgers confirms move to Pittsburgh. Steelers shocking NFL world. In one of the most surprising moves of the offseason, Aaron Rodgers, the legendary quarterback, has confirmed his arrival with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Known for his brilliance on the field and his knack for making the impossible look routine, Rodgers' decision to join the Steelers has sent shockwaves throughout the NFL. Rodgers, 41, is widely regarded as one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the league. After a lengthy and successful tenure with the Green Bay Packers, where he claimed a Super Bowl title and earned multiple MVP awards, Rodgers' future with the Packers had been a subject of speculation for years. However, after a turbulent 2024 season filled with uncertainty, rumors began swirling about his next destination. It was a franchise like the Steelers with its storied history and passionate fan base that seemed like a fitting landing spot for a player of Rodgers' caliber. The confirmation of Rodgers signing with the Steelers has raised eyebrows, especially considering the team's ongoing search for a franchise quarterback to build around. Pittsburgh has long been known for its defense-first mentality, but with the addition of Rodgers, the balance of the team could tilt towards an offensive powerhouse. The Steelers, who have been steadily improving under head coach Mike Tomlin, now have the veteran leadership and quarterback play that could propel them back into Super Bowl contention. Rodgers' arrival in Pittsburgh is not just a monumental shift for the Steelers, but for the entire AFC. The quarterback's skill set, which includes pinpoint accuracy, an uncanny ability to read defenses, and a deep ball that few can match, will be a significant upgrade to a Steelers offense that has struggled at times in recent seasons. With wide receivers like Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and tight end Pat Freiermuth, Rodgers will have plenty of weapons to work with. Moreover, the move comes at a critical juncture for the Steelers. After a few years of rebuilding, Pittsburgh is looking to recapture the glory days of the 2000s, when the team was a constant contender in the AFC. Adding Rodgers to the roster signals a shift in the Steelers' strategy, as they look to blend their traditional tough defense with a potent offense led by one of the most accomplished quarterbacks to ever play the game. Rodgers, who is known for his introspective and sometimes cryptic personality, has already expressed excitement about the opportunity to play in Pittsburgh. He has spoken highly of the city's football culture and the history of the Steelers organization, which includes 6 Super Bowl titles, the most in the AFC. This connection to a storied franchise seems to have played a significant role in it. His decision to join Pittsburgh, despite the many offers that likely came his way. For fans in Pittsburgh, the arrival of Rodgers is the type of move that fuels optimism and excitement for the upcoming season. It's a clear message that the Steelers are in win-now mode, with aspirations of capturing another Super Bowl, while Rodgers still has time to make his mark in the Steel City. With the clock ticking on his illustrious career, Rodgers will undoubtedly look to leave a lasting legacy in Pittsburgh, cementing his place as one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. As the NFL offseason heats up, all eyes will now be on the Steelers and their new quarterback. If Rodgers can stay healthy and return to his MVP-level form, Pittsburgh may very well have what it takes to challenge for another championship. The countdown to the new season has officially begun, and fans are already eagerly anticipating what promises to be one of the most thrilling years in Steelers history. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.